Okay, so if you're a creator or anyone building a community, you've probably felt this. You've poured your heart and soul into building something amazing, but, you also have to pay the bills. And right there, that's the tension, isn't it? How do you start making money without completely alienating the very people who got you here in the first place?
So, that's the big question, the million-dollar question we're going to dig into today. It really is like walking a tightrope between building a business and fostering a genuine connection. If you get it wrong, well, it can be an absolute disaster. But if you get it right, that's when you build something that can truly last.
All right, here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we're going to talk about the real currency of any community. And spoiler, it's not money. Then we'll get into a super important distinction. Are you building an audience or a community? After that, we'll look at some proven ways to make money, check out a story of when it went horribly wrong, and finally, we'll put it all together into a model you can actually use.
Okay, let's dive right in. Before we can even talk about money, we have to talk about the one thing your community truly runs on. And that one thing is trust. It's the whole foundation.
I love this concept of the trust battery. Think of it like a power bank for your community. It's not just a yes or no thing. Every single interaction you have with your members either adds a little charge to that battery or it drains a little bit out. And asking for money, that is always a withdrawal. So the real question is, how full is your battery right now? So how do you charge this thing? Well, it's all about making deposits. Every piece of free content, every time you're open and honest about what you're doing, every time you listen to feedback, you're adding juice to the battery. You're building up this huge reserve of goodwill that makes your community strong enough to handle it when you eventually need to make it withdrawal.
And on the flip side, this is how you drain it fast. Obviously, aggressive sales pitches are on the list. But look at the other stuff, sudden changes, a glitchy website, or putting something behind a paywall that used to be free. Anything that feels like a betrayal or just a plain old cash grab will drain that battery. And if it's already running low, even a tiny ask can completely kill it.
This brings us to a really crucial point. A huge reason why monetization efforts fail spectacularly is because people don't understand what they've actually built. You have to know, do you have an audience or do you have a community? Because trust me, they are not the same thing. It's pretty simple when you break it down. An audience is a one-way street. They show up to hear from you. Think of it like a broadcast. A community, though, that's a network. It's many to many. People are there not just for you, but for each other. And that simple difference changes everything about their expectations. And this table just lays it all out. See, monetizing an audience is pretty low risk. It's transactional. People expect ads, they expect merch, but a community is relational. The value is in belonging. So if you try to use audience tactics on a community, like suddenly throwing up a surprise paywall, it feels like a breach of that social contract. It's a huge betrayal.
Okay, so with the trust battery and the audience versus community difference in our back pocket, let's get into the good stuff. What are the actual playbooks that work in the real world?
We're going to look at 4 main paths here. You've got your classic memberships. Then there are these interesting hybrid models where a community supports a bigger service. High-value courses and cohorts are another big one. And finally, you can do sponsorships, but in a really smart way that actually adds value. Now, if you go the membership route, you've got a big choice to make. You can do freemium. We have a big, free, public space to constantly charge that trust battery, and then a paid section for the really dedicated folks. Or you can do a hard gate. We charge just to get in. But be warned, that second option requires a ton of trust already built up. And the Exit 5 community is just a perfect example of how to nail this. They had a free group, and they moved it to a paid platform. But here's what they did right. They were totally transparent about why. They added new value, like a job board. And get this, the paywall itself became a feature because it filtered for only the most serious members, making the conversations way better. They didn't frame it as a tax. They framed it as an investment in the community itself. Brilliant. But, to really understand why this is also important, we have to look at the other side of the coin. What happens when this goes completely off the rails? The fallout can be incredibly fast and, well, brutal. So here it is, the single biggest mistake you can make, the big unveil. Just dropping a surprise paywall on your community out of the blue. People absolutely hate being surprised, especially when it involves their wallet. It's a huge, immediate, and often irreversible withdrawal from that trust battery. And if you want a textbook example, just look at what happened with Watcher Entertainment. They suddenly announced that everything was going behind a paywall. The fan reaction was instant and furious. They felt totally betrayed. The YouTube channel just hemorrhaged subscribers. And in the end, they had to issue this really humbling public apology and walk the whole thing back. Their trust battery was drained to zero practically overnight.
This quote just nails it. They had a relationship, a social contract with their audience, built up over years, and in one announcement, they completely violated it. They basically told a huge chunk of their fan base, "We don't value you anymore." It was a massive miscalculation of the trust they thought they had.
So, after seeing that cautionary tale, how do we make sure that doesn't happen to us? Let's wrap this all up with a blueprint for building something that's not just profitable, but actually sustainable for the long haul.
A really smart approach is to not rely on just one thing. Think of it like a three-legged stool. The first leg is memberships, giving you that stable, predictable income. The second leg is sponsorships, which can be these great high-margin cash boosts. And the third is offering higher-ticket services or products. This diversity makes your business way more resilient and means you never have to squeeze any one area too hard.
And before you launch anything at all, run it through this checklist. Number 1 is the most important. Are you adding something new, or are you just taking away something that used to be free? Always try to add. And then, did you involve your community? Is your trust battery charged up enough? And please, make it easy for people to cancel. Making it hard to leave is a surefire way to kill trust forever.
I think this quote just says it all, really. Don't build walls around what you already have. Build new floors on top of it. Your goal shouldn't be to lock people out of something they love. It should be to create new and exciting levels for the people who want to go deeper and are happy to support that growth.
So in the end, it all comes back to this. Your community's trust is your most valuable asset. It's your real currency. So the final question for you isn't just about how you're going to spend it. It's about how you're going to keep investing in it, keep charging that battery, and build something that doesn't just make money, but actually makes the community stronger.